Hi, Doug Karsch, Scott Anderson, 97.1 The Ticket. Sun's out and shining on this Tuesday, and we got a huge Piston playoff game tonight. Trying to keep the season going at New York for Game 5. 248-539-9797. Also got this Lions thing out there. Which of the draft picks did you like the most? Which did you either dislike the most or like the least, maybe is another way to put it. And I think that's, you could like them all or have faith in Brad and say, yeah, if Brad Holmes wants him, I'm down with it. And a lot of people are doing it. It's funny. I was listening to Todd McShay and on his podcast, and he was talking about his evaluation of the Lions. And he said, look, are you going to go with what Brad Holmes thinks, or are you going to go with what Todd McShay thinks? Because Brad Holmes, and they listed off all that he has done. He goes, so I think he reached on all these picks, but it was Brad Holmes, so he's probably right. And it's kind of funny that we have that guy in Detroit. It's actually awesome. John writes in, I love the Egyptian assassin. Ahmed may take his time, but if he hits, value.
So I agree, but there's a. I know Dave Burkett had an article in the Free Press today, which kind of talking about all of the draft picks, and had quotes from Brad Holmes on each one of them, and then kind of deciphering what that means and where they kind of rank in the depth charts and stuff, like when you're going to see them. And it sounded like Ahmed Hassanin is a guy that, or Hassanin, might be one that takes a while before he sees the field. He's very raw, and it's because of his lack of football knowledge, because he hasn't played the game all that long. One of the reasons. But because he's got such a high motor and because he is so motivated to play, that maybe that learning curve will be quick for him because he so desperately wants to play football. So we'll see. And unfortunately, a lot of the players that they drafted also seems like they're drafted for special teams purposes. Dan Jackson, the safety from Georgia, they took in the 7th round. Donovan Lovett, they took the receiver from Georgia in the 7th round. Also a special teams guy. Tesla is also a possibility to be a special teams guy. And not that you don't need those guys. And look, the 7th round picks, that's what I'm expecting out of 7th round picks anyway.
Yeah.
It's just, but those are 3 players that account for almost half of your draft class. And if, you're unlikely to see them on the field a ton outside of special teams, it's a bit of a bummer. But the safety, I guess, might have a chance to play because he might be the 3rd safety on the team.
Let's see. Shoot the boot guarantee. The other guard from LSU, Garrett Dillinger, will be better than Miles Frazier. That's from somebody who didn't sign it, so thanks for the guarantee. Ahmad Hassanian became my favorite pick after we saw the video of him telling Dan Campbell he'd die for him on the field. That's from Scott and Katie. Tim and Lapeer, my favorite draft pick is Ahmad Hassanian. With the attitude and work ethic, he could be a real gem. Frazier was my least favorite pick solely because we'd already drafted a guard and could have went in with a different position, although I think he'll be a decent player. Jamie says, I love the Tate Ratledge pick. I dislike the Tesla pick because the most, but I'm very intrigued on him with what Brad spent on him after his interview this morning. Favorite pick, Dan Jackson. That's my son's name, who's a huge Lions fan. Signed apparently Mr. Jackson. He didn't sign it, but
look, the thing with Tesla and where he was drafted, Lions, this is what they do. Brad Holmes, this is what he does. He's got his players that he likes, and he likes them for different reasons than other people might, or he sees something else that others don't, and he's like, I'm gonna go get him, and that's what he does. So I can't. He's got
this every year though. He's got one guy that he moves up for. Like it was a Broderick Martin or Manu,
Giovanni Manu,
and now this guy.
And we haven't seen Broderick Martin or Giovanni Manu.
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, there are those guys. And I also, my hesitancy to fully embrace Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, comes from a place where if you look at the defensive tackles that Brad has drafted, that's not a high hit rate. You can say Ali McNeil for sure, right?
Yep.
But Levi Onwuzurike, when you talk about his enthusiasm for drafting Onwuzurike, was off the charts, and we haven't really seen much. And Broderick Martin, who's hardly played in the 2 years since he's been drafted, that doesn't bode well either. I'm not closing the door on that and saying they're absolute busts, but it's not. It doesn't scream like, oh, they even had a base hit with those guys yet. Ali McNeil was a big time hit, and they put money behind it, gave him the contract. Unfortunately, now he's hurt, and who knows when he's going to play this year.
I give the morning show a ton of credit because they asked one of those questions that I thought he's never going to answer this, and then he answered it. But they asked Brad Holmes this morning who his favorite draft pick was, and I'm like, he's not going. And he's like, well, I kind of do have a favorite, and here's what he said. So
well, obviously, even gave up a couple of third rounders next year to move up to get him.
He wasn't messing around, was he?
He was not. He was not. But again, this is a team that is not. They don't need to have 10 draft picks. They don't have a draft. They don't need to have a huge draft class because they're looking for depth guys or perhaps a starter here and there. If that's what first round picks are for, you would think. But the other guys are there really for depth and for the future. Mm-hmm. So if you're giving up a couple of picks to move up to get a guy, I can understand it from their standpoint because they don't have to have the big draft class. Not anymore.
I know you said that, his hit rate hasn't been the best with defensive tackles, but with his receivers, St. Brown, middle of the draft, this guy, Tesla, middle of the draft, I think they see certain attributes they really kind of fall in love with, and they think, we can develop this. Jameson Williams obviously was a first-round pick, a little bit of different story there, speedster, take the top off the defense. But with St. Brown and hopefully Tesla, that they see the traits that they want. They're physical receivers, whether you're small or big, because St. Brown's a physical receiver, right? Tesla is a physical receiver. They'll block. He's going to play special teams at first.
And that's what they love about him is he can block. And he catches the ball with his hands as opposed to with his body. And, his size is great.
That's actually, if JMO's, they picked up his option, so, he should be here for 2 more years. Tim Patrick's on a 1-year deal. I think they're hoping that he can fill that Tim Patrick role as that big receiver with a wide catch radius that can contested catches, high point the ball.
If I'm not mistaken, though, Tesla does not have a great vertical leap. He's got the great size of being 6'4" and 215, but the vertical leap isn't all that special.
All right, regarding something we talked about earlier from YouTube, Life Force posts, I watched the Kool-Aid Challenge video. Gator's right, closed circuit security cams and Ring doorbells will kill this whole trend. As it should. From FBG 25, Amon-Ra turned out pretty good. He did, and so did Cooper Kupp. This is in the Brad deserves credit for that. He built some credit for that. He built the draft board in which Cooper Kupp was taken as a mid-round pick.
And I don't think he's a Cooper Kupp, he wasn't here for this pick, but Puka Nacua is what this reminds me of as well. I know that's a Rams pick, wasn't a Brad Holmes, but
right.
Let me go back to the just real quick to correct something before we go to commercial. I was mistaken on Tesla. I was thinking the other receiver. No, Tesla has a 39.5-inch vertical. Yeah, that's quite good to go with his.
I think he had the best RAS score of all the receivers.
Yeah, I wanted to correct that before I got too far.
You said he couldn't jump at all.
No, I said I couldn't jump at all.
That is true.
Yeah. Those are facts.
More feedback coming into the Karsch and Anderson inbox. Text at 248-539-9797. Regarding Holmes in the late rounds, Scott says, I think he likes project players late. And I think that's accurate. He's done a decent job. Let's not forget, Mahogany could start this year, 6th-round pick. And that's a real nice find. From Nubs Get Dubs, I love the Tesla pick. Arkansas had a putrid passing attack, and he was severely misused. I didn't care for Brad doubling down in the 6th round on another interior O-lineman. It was the 5th round, so it was even, I guess, he used a higher resource than you thought. From NR, I like Ratledge. Dude is a mauler with a mullet. Enough said. Dislike Tesla, not because of the player, but the cost drives me crazy thinking about it. One of those thirds could have been used. Been valuable at the trade deadline. From John, the Pistons lose tonight because they don't have experience closing out close games. From Josh, they win. The refs course correct on fouls, which then sets the Knicks team and staff into a frenzy. And we get game 6 and 7, hopefully with Stewart in the lineup. I hope there's a course correction over that terrible lack of foul call. And God, I just saw it again today, and I thought, this league rewards Hardaway for not trying to make the shot. If Hardaway jumps to his right with no attempt at really trying to make the shot just to get fouled, he shoots 3 free throws. That's the Brunson rule. but he tried to make the shot, got fouled, and they didn't call it. The league is rewarding somebody more for trying to get fouled than they are for somebody for trying to make the shot while getting fouled.
Well, the refs let the physical play go because they had all game long.
All right, Gator, it's clearly none of our business, but it's still an amazing story. We will get to that today at 11:48 here on Karsch and Anderson on 97.1 The Ticket.